I just want to show you this last extremely revealing clip between Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson where things got particularly heated. Ted Cruz got particularly uncomfortable, and you'll never, ever guess, never in a million years, even if I give you 100 guesses, what Ted Cruz decided to imply was truly motivating Tucker Carlson.
Do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics?
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question: what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator, you're just
okay. I just want to. Do you remember the clip we just showed you, where Ted Cruz said that he went to the U.S. Congress with the stated intention of working, quote, every day to advance and serve the interest of Israel, a foreign country? And then that very same Ted Cruz announcing that what Barry Weiss does, if they're honest, what Ben Shapiro does, if he's honest, what Chuck Schumer does, and he has been honest, is that their supreme cause, their primary loyalty, is advancing the interest of a foreign government, even though they're American citizens, and in this case, American politicians. Ted Cruz just minutes ago, that was just like in this clip, we separated the clips, but it's just a couple minutes earlier. He's the one who said that he works up every single day to serve the interest of Israel. Every day he said that's what he does. And the reason why so many of us who don't do that talk about Israel a lot is because Israel's the country we give more money in foreign aid to over many decades by far than any other group. We fund their military. We go to war for them. The reason, as General said, we're so hated in the Middle East and that people from the Middle East want to attack our country in large part is because they know that we're the ones who provide Israel with all the weapons that bomb their countries and blow up babies and kill Arabs and Muslims all the time and have done so for decades. They know the United States is behind that. We pay an enormous price financially, militarily, in lives and soft power and reputation, in terms of our own physical security, for dedicating ourselves to the state of Israel for all the reasons we've been showing you people in the government admit they do. We've been arming and financing their destruction of Gaza, what human rights groups all over the world, what I agree as well, will say is the worst crime by far in the 21st century. The worst atrocity, the worst, we're talking about forced starvation, all the other things that we've documented. The U.S. government has been right at the heart of that, first under Biden, now under Trump. Nothing changes in foreign policy when you vote for one party or the other, even though Trump promised a major break from bipartisan foreign policy. That's why we talk about Israel, because the Ted Cruz's and Chuck Schumer's and so many others have made it the centerpiece of our foreign policy and of our country, to the point where we now have civil liberties attacks on free speech in the name of this foreign government. People getting deported and expelled for the crime of criticizing the state of Israel. Hate speech codes being imposed to prevent you from saying things about Israel or particular Jewish people, what you can say about anybody else, including American citizens or the United States. It's infected and contaminated every last aspect of our political life. And so Ted Cruz, who says that he wakes up every day to serve the interest of Israel, this one foreign government, can then turn around to Tucker and say, why are you obsessed with Israel? It must be because you're an anti-Semite. That's the nature of this discourse always. Conservatives went around for a decade, whining, complaining, screaming. And I was with them a lot on these grievances. The minute you disagree with a liberal on anything, they call you a racist or a misogynist or a transphobe, whatever. You question liberal dogma, and you get accused of being a bigot. That's exactly how most pro-Israel advocates function. The minute you question them, the minute you criticize Israel, you're instantly branded as a bigot and anti-Semite. Exactly the same tactic they pretend to loathe when it's done to them. Here's how this played out.
You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
you're asking the questions, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have...
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions. which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy, feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews?
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or the
If I can
Ayatollah.
finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise, and I mean that.
Okay. You know, this is the one thing that I really hate more than anything is this kind of cowardice in discourse. If you want to call someone an anti-Semite, just call them that. Say, I know that you hate Jews. I believe that you hate Jews. I believe that you're operating from bigotry. The reason you're questioning my loyalty to Israel is because you think, in reality, that the job of a U.S. politician is to serve the interests of the American people rather than a foreign government. It's because you hate Israel, you hate Jews, you are anti-Semite. Okay, at least if you say that, people will see what you're doing. But they very rarely do that. I mean, people online will do that because who cares? They say anything, often anonymously. But obviously he was implying very strongly, using innuendo and insinuation, that the reason Tucker Carlson is questioning AIPAC, questioning the loyalty that Ted Cruz said he has to Israel and the propriety of that, the necessity of going to war for Israel and Iran, fighting alongside them against their worst enemy. He's insinuating and implying that it's because Tucker Carlson is an anti-Semite who is obsessed with Jews. But then when Tucker Carlson says, you're calling me an anti-Semite, Tucker's like, I didn't say that. Just asking you, why are you so obsessed with the Jew? Of course he was saying that, but he's such a coward. I hate it when people use insinuation and innuendo to accuse somebody else of bigotry and then give themselves plausible deniability. I didn't say that you hate Jews. Why are you so sensitive? When, of course, that's exactly what he was implying. And this is the way the discussion always ends up. It always ends up here. You can watch your government send billions of your dollars, as you do every year, to this foreign government. You can watch your own government be filled with politicians who you elected to serve your interests, admit that their primary responsibility, whether it's because God tells them to or whatever other reason they might have, is to serve the interest of a foreign government that Ted Cruz says he wakes up every day to fulfill. And the minute you ask a question, I'm like, wait a minute, why are we doing so much for this foreign government? Why do we send all our money there? Why do we give them all our arms? Why do we fight all their wars for them? Why do we sacrifice our interests for them? The ending of that discussion is you are an anti-Semite. The last time any president meaningfully defied the orders of the Israeli government and of AIPAC, Ronald Reagan did it. There's a memo of his saying when Menachem Begin, Prime Minister of Israel in the 1980s, was bombing southern Lebanon and killing huge numbers of civilians, massacring civilians, Reagan called him up and said, this is disgusting what you're doing. It's like a Holocaust and I demand that it end. And 20 minutes later, Menachem Begin called him back and said, we're stopping the war. Reagan stood up to Israel all the time. But the real conflict became when George H.W. Bush was president. People like James Baker and Brent Scowcroft, who are in the realist school, like John Mearsheimer of foreign policy, were his Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. And they had a very simple view, which was it's in the interest of the United States to foster an agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians that would create a two-state solution where a Palestinian state exists, coexists side by side an Israeli state, because that will finally end this endless, very vitriolic conflict that prevents the United States from doing business in the Middle East, because everybody in the Middle East blames the United States, rightfully so, for the repression of the Palestinians. And so the United States government across partisan lines for decades had the view, our interest is that you have a two-state solution. And the anger of the Bush 41 government was, we keep telling you we don't want you to expand more settlements in the West Bank because the West Bank doesn't belong to you. The West Bank is going to be part of the Palestinian state and the deal we're trying to foster. And when you allow your citizens to expand their settlements in a part of the area that doesn't belong to you, it makes a two-state solution more difficult. And no matter how much we keep telling you that it undermines our interests, you keep doing it anyway. And if you keep doing things that we're telling you undermines our interests, we're not going to keep funding you. We're not going to give you loan guarantees that you need. And that threat from the Bush administration saying, if you don't stop these policies that hurt us, we're not going to keep giving you loan guarantees, caused a major explosion on a bipartisan basis in Congress from the Ted Cruzes and the AIPACs and the Schumers who say our number one job is to serve Israel. And there was a major scandal accusing Jim Baker and Brent Scowcroft of being anti-Semites. And you know who led that campaign? Bill Clinton and the Democrats. When Bill Clinton ran as the Democratic nominee against the sitting incumbent president in 1992, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton ran around the United States accusing Bush 41 and James Baker and Brent Scowcroft of spawning anti-Semitism, of encouraging violent attacks against Jews, because they were questioning the state of Israel, being insufficiently supportive to the state of Israel. Jim Baker got smeared in headlines all over the country. He was a very respected foreign policy advisor, lawyer. It basically destroyed his reputation overnight. They just branded him an anti-Semite. And ever since then, that was 1991, thanks to Bill Clinton and the Democrats and plenty of people in both parties and the media, everybody understood from that point forward, if you even question why we do so much for Israel, even when it harms our interests, your reputation will be destroyed. You'll be branded anti-Semite. And that put an end to any real attempt by any president to defy Israel. To his credit, Obama entered the Iran deal over Netanyahu's vicious objections. Did a couple of other things as well, but he also signed a deal on his way out promising $4 billion a year to Israel with Netanyahu. And so this always has been what has destroyed Americans' ability to question any of this, calling people an anti-Semite. You just saw Ted Cruz do it the most cowardly, slimy way possible to Tucker Carlson. And I think, finally, and this is the one note of optimism on which I will end, is that people are tired of that. They got tired of the liberal tactic, just running around calling everybody anti-Semite all the time, calling everybody a racist all the time, rather calling them a misogynist, and everybody understood that the more you just throw that term around, the less impact it has, the less meaning it has. And so it wore off, and there was backlash against it. Like, go ahead, call me a racist, call me a misogynist. You've drained those terms of meaning. They're just weapons, cynical weapons that you employ to end debate and prevent questions about your views. And that is 100% done, even more so from pro-Israel conservatives or pro-Israel Democrats, to end any questioning about the state of Israel and our loyalty to it. And I think people are at the point with independent media watching Israel blow up babies every single day and commit atrocities with our weapons and our arms in Gaza, of being told we can't talk, we have to lose our jobs, we have to submit to heightened hate speech laws and codes on college campuses. People get fired from college campuses if they question this foreign government. People are like, wait a minute, why is this foreign government dominating our country so much? And people aren't scared anymore of being called an anti-Semite. And that's why Tucker Carlson was able to go and do what he did with Ted Cruz. I don't believe Tucker Carlson could have or would have done that when he was at Fox. The fact that Tucker himself is not Jewish makes him more vulnerable to that accusation, but by no means just being Jewish shield you from it. I can guarantee you that. And it used to be that being branded that was career destroying. It no longer is. And that has opened up for the first time these kinds of questioning, these kinds of debates. And when you finally open it up and shine sunshine on it, that's when you finally start to see the truth. That's when things start to, all the mold and dirt and things hidden beneath the floorboards can finally be detected and washed away. And I think polls show clearly that that's what's happening with Americans' views of Israel, and particularly our loyalty to it. The problem is it's probably a little bit too late to prevent Donald Trump from getting even more involved on behalf of Israel in the war in Iran, if that's what he seems inclined to do and if that's what he ends up doing. But the good thing is this is clearly unsustainable in the long term. If I were Israel, although I'd be happy for the moment that Trump is going to fight a new war for you, is already doing so really. It's only a question of how much more he does it. They might be happy in the short term. In the long term, I think it's done more to endanger Israel, those kind of tactics, than anything else that Israel opponents could possibly dream of. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.